Never, ever apologize for setting boundaries.
I should have taken this one.
So right now I'm setting a boundary and taking this from Angie, and I'm going to give my 2 cents, and then Angie will give hers. See me setting a boundary? Hey everyone, this is Becky.
And I'm Angie.
And welcome to Real Talk with Beckie and Angie. You know, there's this book by Melissa Urban. If you don't know who she is, she's the creator of Whole30. And she wrote a book on boundaries, and she refers to herself as the boundary lady. And I listened to her book and I thought it was really great. And my biggest takeaway from it is that setting boundaries is not selfish. And if you feel scared to do it anyway, because you're setting a boundary out of love and protecting yourself. And I remember when we first talked about having this book be part of our book club, and everyone's like, oh, I'm so scared to set boundaries. I'm so scared to set boundaries. But the thing is that you're already setting boundaries that probably don't serve you. So we set boundaries. It's just that the boundary is right here instead of a little bit farther away. You know, when you're standing in line, remember you had to stand 6 feet away from people. Well, now I see people bunching up a little bit closer and closer. We could set boundaries. Hey, back off, buddy. You know, it's not rude. It's not disrespectful. And you can do it in a way from love instead of aggressive. You can confidently set a boundary. Say, you know what, honey, I'm doing my podcast right now. So if you could please keep it down upstairs, then I can it won't pick you up on the mic. And that's setting boundaries, letting him know, hey, I'm recording right now. Not that he obviously didn't respect my boundaries because he was talking really loud, and I chose not to close the door. So setting boundaries is something that comes from love. Angie, what do you think about this?
Well, what I have learned as I have become older, as I've aged and I've become wiser, let's put it that way, is the tact that I use to set boundaries and how I set boundaries with others. I really haven't had much trouble setting boundaries outside of very intimate relationships. Intimate relationships like my last marriage, and I wasn't very good about setting boundaries that protected myself. But outside of that, been very good about boundaries, but I wasn't always tactful in how I set boundaries. It was more aggressive than it was. How do I explain this? It makes sense that when you set when I set a boundary that this is what I expect and that is what I expect. It's not up for negotiation. It's not, and if that doesn't serve you, it doesn't work for you, then we probably are not going to do well together. And that may be friends, that may be family. There's a lot of things there. And for me, I can set boundaries, and it doesn't have to come, as Becky was saying, it doesn't have to come from a place of being aggressive. It comes from a place of being firm, standing up for yourself, and it also will prevent problems in the future. Because not setting boundaries now, things start to build up because you've allowed yourself to take on these things, or people getting in your space or getting into your world, and the ick that comes from that. And then you're down the road and now you're mad. And then step back a second. Where can it serve you? This is what I look at. And if I would have learned this younger and I could have said it with confidence, without a fight, this is what I need in my life. I kind of call it my playbook. Like, here's the rules to engage with Angie. It's kind of my playbook. And I give that in advance in a relationship or close friendships. And it's not to be hard-nosed or like, if we're going to be friends, this is what I expect of you. It comes from a place of love. And can we meet together in this? And I'm open to what everyone else has to, like, if your hard boundary is X, I'm good with that too. I would prefer to know someone else's boundaries than to guess or cross over into their area where they're not comfortable.
That's such a great point right there, Angie. That's such a great point. Have you ever had somebody say to you, you know what? Okay, yeah, I can talk right now and I have 15 minutes. Do you appreciate that more than at the 15-minute mark? They're like, you know what? I'm sorry, I got to go. Bye. And then they just hang up because they didn't tell you. I appreciate when people give me their boundaries and tell me what the parameters are, because
Mhm.
it's like gives you like kind of like a playground, like I think where you said playbook,
The
but
playbook.
it's like,
Mhm.
okay, now I know the rules. And when you know the rules, then you can play. You can play all day or until their boundaries say you can't play any longer. And they're the part of a friendship or a relationship in general that help it be healthier and be more
Mhm.
satisfying when you walk away and you know that you've respected your boundary, their boundary, and your boundary has been respected. Your bond is that much tighter and better. I think it's really good. And I think if I had a message to my younger self, it would be set boundaries and be firm with them and not feel guilty about them. That is probably one of the things when I was younger, that setting firm boundaries for my space, I was not very good at. I could have improved in that area.
Yeah. And I think that it's just fair. And I know that it sounds almost harsh to be like, here's my playbook, but I want your playbook too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to know how we can, you're an individual, I'm an individual. How can we best come together and support each other? And if we're kind of bumping into each other and, not really understanding the other person, it just kind of gives you a better foundation in the beginning. So boundaries are good and they'll serve you and your relationship. So there's that.
Amen.
And boundaries are family as well.